Recording started.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our April 23rd, 2024 council meeting. I would like for the town clerk to do a roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Winkler,
Present.
Councilman Trollinger,
Present.
Councilwoman Bryant Ward,
Present.
Councilman Jenkins.
Present.
Mayor James, you have a quorum.
Fantastic. I would like to officially call this meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. Would you all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the approval of the meeting agenda. And before we get a motion for that, I actually would like to make a motion that we do adjust the agenda and pull out the work session of April 16th minutes. And there was several errors on that, and it's still on the agenda, but I would like to amend the agenda to exclude that for our next one. So I make a motion that we approve the meeting agenda of April 23rd with by excluding the work session on April 16th minutes. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have, next, I will entertain a motion for the minutes of, that we do have closed session minutes of March 19th, 2024. Do I have a motion to accept them?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we accept the closed session minutes of March 19th, 2024 as presented.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We have several proclamations for the end of this month and for the beginning of next month. And instead of reading each individual proclamation, we are going to summarize what the proclamation says. And I'm going to go first with the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. This proclamation recognizes May as the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and will be presented at the first Asian cultural event held in Charles County and the town of La Plata on Saturday, May 18th at the Port Tobacco Theater. So I encourage everyone to come on by and join the commissioner to the Governor's Commission on Asian Pacific American Affairs for this special event on Saturday, May 18th from 12:30 to 4:30, where this proclamation will be read and presented at that time. National Stroke Awareness Month. This proclamation highlights the significance of stroke as a leading cause of death, particularly in Maryland and Charles County, and it emphasizes the critical window for administering life-saving treatments after the onset of symptoms, and notes the challenges in timely hospital arrival. And as Maryland's first stroke smart town, the town of La Plata aims to lead by example in stroke education, promoting awareness, prevention, and recognition through initiatives like posting educational materials, holding public events, and involving various community groups. So the ultimate goal is to ensure everyone in La Plata understands stroke symptoms and the importance of calling 911 promptly fostering a community-wide effort to prevent and respond effectively to strokes. So now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do recognize the month of May 2024 as National Stroke Awareness Month and encourage our citizens to make every effort to learn how to spot a stroke, stop a stroke, and save a life. And that is signed by the entire council, myself as mayor, Councilman Winkler, Councilman Trollinger, Councilwoman Bryant Ward, and Councilman Jenkins. Our next proclamation is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mental Health Awareness Month. The proclamation acknowledges Mental Health Awareness Month in May 2024, emphasizing the importance of mental health for individuals, families, communities, and businesses. It notes the prevalence of mental health disorders among Americans, including children, and highlights the potential negative outcomes if left untreated. The proclamation addresses the stigma and stereotypes associated with mental illness that often hinder people from seeking necessary treatment. It also emphasizes the mental illness in a biologically based disorder and not a matter of willpower or character. The proclamation promotes mental health recovery as a journey of healing and transformation, enabling individuals to live in their communities and achieve their full potential. It includes by highlighting the positive impact of mental health recovery in individuals on the broader community. Therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do recognize the month of May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month and encourage our citizens, public and private institutions, and businesses to commit to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health illness and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health illnesses to promote recovery. This is signed by the Council of the Town of La Plata, Janini James, Mayor, David L. Winkler, Councilman, Matthew D. Trollinger, Councilman, Evelyn Bryant Ward, Councilwoman, and David Jenkins, Councilman.
Thank you very much. Our next proclamation is National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month. This proclamation recognizes National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month in May of 2024, and it highlights the founding of the National Leagues of Cities in 1924, which they're celebrating their 100th year, and its role in representing municipal governments across the United States. The document acknowledges the Town of La Plata's membership in the National League of Cities and the benefits derived from this association, including research, technical expertise, federal advocacy, and learning opportunities. It emphasizes the significance of local governments in American democracies, providing accountable, responsive, and transparent governance to millions of residents. The proclamation also celebrates the contributions of local governments from small villages to large cities in shaping the United States into a leading nation. So now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do recognize the month of May 2024 as National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month in celebration of America's local governments and the National League of Cities' historic centennial anniversary. And it is signed by the council, Mayor James, Councilman Winkler, Councilman Trollinger, Councilwoman Bryant Ward, and Councilman Jenkins. Our next proclamation is Professional Municipal Clerks Week.
Okay, excuse me, Professional Municipal Clerk Week. This proclamation designates May 5th through the 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerk Week. It recognizes the office of the professional municipal clerk as a crucial part of local government worldwide with a long history of service. The document highlights the role of professional municipal clerks in bridging citizens, local governing bodies, and other government agencies while maintaining neutrality and impartiality. It acknowledges their responsibility as information centers on local government functions and community matters. The proclamation also appreciates professional municipal clerks' dedication to continuous improvement through education, programs, seminars, and professional organization meetings. Overall, it emphasizes the importance of recognizing and celebrating the achievements of professional municipal clerks during this designated week. Now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do recognize the week of May 5th through the 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week and urge all citizens to pay tribute to our professional municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. From the Council of the Town of La Plata, Janine James, Mayor, David Winkler, Councilman, Matthew Trollinger, Councilman, Evelyn Bryant Ward, Councilwoman, and David Jenkins, Councilman.
Thank you very much. And our last proclamation is National Police Week.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This proclamation designates May 12th through 18th as National Police Week. It recognizes the contributions of over 800,000 law enforcement officers serving across the United States, including those in the La Plata Police Department. The document commemorates the nearly 24,000 officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty since 1786, with their names engraved on the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Notes the addition of 20 new names to the memorial this spring, honoring officers who died due to various causes while on duty. It also highlights the 35th Candlelight Vigil organized by the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund on May 13, 2023, to honor all fallen officers. Additionally, it designates May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, urging the flying of U.S. flags at half-staff in tribute to fallen officers and their families. Now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do hereby recognize May 12th through 18th as National Police Week and publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and across our communities throughout the nation. This is signed by the Council of the Town of La Plata, the Mayor, Janine James, Councilman David Winkler, Councilman Matthew Trollinger, Councilwoman Evelyn Bryant Ward, and Councilman David Jenkins.
Thank you very much. So quite a busy month and recognizing so many important events. Next on our agenda is public comment. If you would like to speak, we ask that you state your name, whether you live within the incorporated town limits, and if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated. Anybody here? Okay. Chief, it's your show now. Up for your monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I apologize for the mud on my shoes and on my pants, but I was on a walkabout most of the day. So are there any questions that I may be able to, can I update you on the critical missing person?
Please.
Yeah, I guess as Paul McCartney would say, you get by with a little help from your friends. We immobilized every resource that was available to us today, from Maryland State Police helicopters to hounds from the Prince George's County Police Department and the Charles County Sheriff's Office. Yeah, we had 4 agencies out there today, us and the Sheriff's Department. The relationship between LPPD and CCSO was on full display. Good, bad, or indifferent, it was a very long day, but it had a good ending. We did find the young man, and he was reunited with his family, but we probably at one point had 75 police officers on scene, a helicopter in the air, dogs out, and drones up. So we made it today with the help of our friends.
Job well done. Thank you very much for that. And I love the happy ending. Council, any questions on the chief's report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief Shannon, I do have some questions. Where are we with the mental health training for the officers?
So we're right for the 40 hours of CIT training. We're probably at 75% of our officers. One of the things that the Anne Arundel County Police Department, who's a leader in the CIT trade and has a national model, recommends is you let people get about 2 years on the street, get some experience under the belt, and then put them through the 40-hour CIT training. We typically, when CIT training is available here in Southern Maryland, it's for the 4 agencies, the 3 Sheriff's Department and the La Plata Police Department. Historically, we're allowed 1 or 2 seats just by proportion of how the class is laid out. So we have supplemented that with the Baltimore County Police Department. They train our people for free. And the Montgomery County Police Department has trained our people for free. So even if there's no class here, we can usually find them and get our folks to them.
So mean, to say, let them get 2 or 3 years, maybe that worked in the past when we weren't in, having so many situations that might require mental health intervention. Do you think that's still, advisable? Because our young officers, we don't know what they're gonna walk into and, I just think being prepared is,
Well, and I understand your concern. One of the things that I like about the Anne Arundel County Police Academy is they are into 21st century policing. So they do receive a lot of live action training. It's still not like being right there and having it ongoing. We can change that model here. It's not that big of a deal. It's just getting our people into the classes. I think I've maybe shared, but maybe I haven't. So when that mental health call comes out and it's in La Plata, they'll ask if we have a CIT trained officer to respond. So we will respond. If we don't, then the sheriff's deputy will come. We do the same thing for the sheriff's department. Is if over in Indian Head, they have a call and they don't have a CIT trained officer, one of our officers will go over to Indian Head and help them. So that's the relationship we have. And as between the 4 districts and us, there's usually a couple of CIT trained officers working the road.
my last question. In the Public Works report, we often see where the vehicles are, so many vehicles are getting maintenance. And we're spending a lot of dollars on the vehicles for the police cruisers. When and where do they get the maintenance? I've never seen anything that talked about maintenance, but I do hear a lot about replacement.
Yeah, well, the maintenance, Mr. Stahl's shop does some of it. Some of it we send over to La Plata Tire. This was an unusual year. We probably spent double what we normally have, but we've lost a couple of motors, which is unusual. So we follow the fleet magazines pretty close to see if they can predict for us what we may need to do and what preventive maintenance. But it just depends, Mr. Stahl's shop is busy, or if it's something that their mechanic can't do, we go over to La Plata Tire.
Okay, so when I'm looking at that report from Public Works and it talks about maintenance on vehicles, some of your vehicles might be included in that report.
I would think so, Bobby. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Councilman Jenkins?
Thank you, Chief, again for the report. Just on your slide where you talk about the cost of service. I noticed in March there's a significant increase. Is there any background as to why, or is that a trend or a continuing trend?
I can only tell you over the last 6 weeks, we seem to have been running as many mental health calls as we did during COVID. So we're hoping it's just something that was an outlier on the trends, but it's something that we follow closely. If you look at that whole chart, we ran 1,873 calls for service in the 2.5 years of this chart or whatever that we have here. That's the second highest calls for service, with 1,874 being in October of 2022.
Okay, and then I did have another question further down under your, bear with me, the monthly, the Part 1 crimes and case closure rate, you had circled in red, juvenile criminal arrest. Was that highlighted for a reason, or is it a trend, or?
Yeah, one of the things that Councilwoman Bryant Ward asked if we could kind of do some better tracking on our juvenile interactions. And this is unusual for us to have 3 juvenile arrests in a month, especially since the law has changed on when and where you can make a juvenile detention. So we just wanted to make the council aware that we had those 3 interactions. And we're trying to find a way to track the non-custodial interactions, whether that's going to be through call sheets or if that's going to be through an email sent to the captain or whatever. But we've been having that discussion and asked at this point for the sergeants at least send us an email saying that there was interactions with juveniles.
Thank you.
Any other from council? Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up would be Director Harrington.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right, any questions from council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Harrington, violation notices, 33.
So this is the year of, or the time of year for grass. So a lot of these notices of violations are grass related or some type of vegetation related because people are not mowing their lawns.
Wow. And you keep forgetting the little patch of grass over there behind the Port Tobacco Theater, and those weeds.
Triangle.
So that's a complicated property. We are working with the property owner and our Keep a Plate Beautiful and the Bee City group to try to turn that into something that's a little bit more, better looking. But it's been a code enforcement issue for a very long time, and it's something that we've gone back and forth with legal on. And technically, they got a certification through the for a pollinator, get native habitat or something like that. So technically, there's a certification on it. And so that's why we are going to be incorporating into our code pollinator gardens and getting them certified through the town and creating some regulations that we can go off of.
It's really a disaster waiting to happen. You cannot see that little corner. You can't see to the left to turn. Maybe they need to make it a no left turn to save us, because that's going to be a nightmare if he continues to let it grow.
Thank you. Any other questions for Director Harrington? Go ahead, Councilman Jenkins.
Thank you, Director Harrington. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there a new development capacity spreadsheet that's available for viewing?
I have passed along any information I have to the town manager and town attorney for review. And I believe it's under review right now.
And then I noticed, and I appreciate the spreadsheet where you've laid out all the various code revisions you'd like to do. And so I appreciate and applaud the staff for that. I do have a question on the street design. So you're going to be looking at the Charles County street designs. Is there a reason other than the fact that they're close and convenient?
So the standard details refer to the different measurements and different road widths and things along those lines. So we are going to be looking at the Charles County standard details as far as water and sewer pipes, and then the different road widths and road types. Since we do have to interconnect a lot of our roads and in the future, probably water and sewer systems, we wanted to make sure that they were consistent. So that's something that we're going to be reviewing, and I'll be working with our operations and public works department to see if there's anything that we want to revise or to, not adopt in full. But it's something that we wanted to have some standard, measurements across the board that we could utilize to make things a little bit easier.
And now, thank you for that. And I have a little bit more clarity now, but does this also include when you change the design of road street standards, is that going to affect or should it affect any possible implementation of a complete streets policy or zoning code change?
No, it shouldn't. No, it wouldn't affect that. Depending on the type of road and the type of situation, we'd have different regulations in place.
And then I would just offer as perhaps another reference to look at is called you may have heard of this already, National Association of City Transportation Officials. They have a pretty comprehensive design manual. From my perspective as one council member and a former recovering planner, certainly seems to me to be more in line with zero deaths and complete streets and how we can use road design to reduce speeding and road deaths and pedestrian deaths on the roadway. So I would just offer that as a reference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Harrington? And thank you for, I understand you're very close with Polly the Pollinator, and I see that she has been out and about spreading goodwill. So thank you for that too.
And she'll be here on Saturday.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. Next up, Director Stahl.
Good evening, Mayor Council.
Good evening. Do we have any questions for Director Stahl?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Stahl. So of course, I have the comments from the one resident about us doing some damage when we were doing some type of work at the edge of the street where he lives and causing him some water issues. How do we identify issues that may have been caused by the work we're doing?
We would clearly, we look at them as the final when we finalize our job, we then go back and inspect. If the resident then feels that they have been harmed in some way, they would, of course, let us know. We would go out there and try to resolve the conflict. It's not worth having residents I mean, the reason we're out there fixing things is to have resident approval. And if we damage it in some way, and it may be that we just didn't notice, but our goal in every situation is to make sure that the residents are happy.
But we wouldn't see if we cause some type of damage when we're doing the work. Would that be apparent to us or no?
Potentially, but not always.
Not always.
Yes.
Okay. And then going down to the projects that you have, that's a lot of projects. Are they simultaneous? They're going on at the same time? And do we have that many staff members in Public Works that can work on those type projects?
We have quite a few projects. We're very, very busy. We do not have a lot of employees, and so we are spread fairly thin, and we're using contractors where we can. But I'd give you the example, we're finishing up over at Williamsburg Circle. That project was originally slated to take 1 week. It took almost 3. We ran into a lot of challenges over there, and so it took a lot of additional time. We did work with a contractor, but we've done that. Today, we poured all the new curb and gutter over there, and so we're trying to get that finished up before the end of the week. There just are a lot of projects in the queue, and to be honest, it's a money issue as well. I mean, we have about so much money in the budget. As you know, the budget's fairly tight this year. And so we're trying to do the best we can in working with the budget, working with labor, working with contractors to try and address as many of those projects as we can. And the goal in a lot of these is when we work with a third-party contractor, I still have town employees on that job. Because in every one where we're working with the contractor, we always write the contracts so that we provide the materials. And when we provide the materials, we do that we can buy the materials tax-free. A private contractor cannot. And we cannot pass along our tax-free status to the contractor. So in many cases, we're absolutely trying to save money. So we provide all the materials on the job site. And so there is a lot of interaction, like over on Williamsburg Circle, we generally had 2 to 3 people working on that job. And they were working with 3 people from the contractor as well to get the job accomplished. We've got some others that are getting ready to start. We got the pipe delivered this week for Blue Jay, the big pipe replacement over there. So that was delivered. That's getting ready to start. We've ordered the pipe, as you all know, for Mallard, and that's one of the others. We have a large project out in front of the hospital buildings on North Oak. Our goal is to replace all of that stormwater line through there. And all of those are just projects that we're moving through the process and trying to get as many of them done as we possibly can. But I will tell you, there are a lot of projects. I believe in the stormwater projects alone, on that list, there are 357 projects total on our stormwater list. So
last question for you is, since we've been on the council, you've always done an excellent job of managing and maintaining your budget. And we're in the 2023 FY24 budget year. And you said that, as you know, the budget is tight. So the budget for FY24 for you was tight?
Well, listen, we have been very cautious with our budget, and I promise, as I always have for the past 17 years, I have never come in over budget. We work on that very, very diligently, and I'm very cautious of how I spend money. And so I will come in this year, I believe, in good shape. Karina and I have worked through, and as you will see from this year's enterprise fund budgets, we're seeing a lot of increasing cost. The county alone went up on landfill cost. They just approved their new landfill. They went from $91 a ton to $101 a ton, which is a 12% increase alone just for our landfill. And that doesn't include the additional tonnage we're doing because we're growing. So we're seeing tremendous increases in cost that we have to pass along. And so it's a challenge, but we will be in good shape for the budget. But it is always, as with every project, everything that we're doing, I'm bringing to you the bid for Tillman Lake. That's been interesting because that actually came in under where we thought it would be. So we had 10 bidders on that project, and that one came in a little bit less expensive than where we thought it would be. And that's kind of been unusual over the last several years. So we were very pleased with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Jenkins?
Thank you, Director Stahl, Madam Mayor. Director Stahl, if you can, is there any update or information or that you can share with respect to the Maryland Department of Environment groundwater appropriation permit and Charles County, and any progress or any update that's available?
I believe it was interesting. I met with Jason Groth, the Director of Planning and Growth Management for the county, the other day on another project, but we did discuss water appropriation. He did say that the county was interested in getting that, getting an agreement with the town, and that they wanted to do that very shortly. Mr. Manuel may want to speak to it, but he indicated to me today that there is a meeting set between the county attorney and the town's attorney in the near future to be able to look at a memorandum of understanding between the town and the county. So I think that's underway. I also asked Mr. Groth if he could please add some immediacy to the approval for our plans for the interconnection at Tillman Lake.
Right.
And he said he would do that. So that's where we are at this point. I believe that there is some wiggle room in here that things are moving a little bit. And I did understand from Mr. Groth that the county wanted to get this settled as well because of the pressure from MDE.
Okay.
Thank you for that encouraging news, and I would certainly, as one member, certainly want to expedite that as quickly as possible. That's equitable to everybody, the town and the county, but also the residents. So thank you very much.
Councilman
Excuse me. Question. You mentioned the bids for Tillman Lake coming under budget, but there was such an extreme range.
Huge range.
A huge range.
492,000 to 2.8 million.
And that's where I'm curious as to, does 400 come back and say, scratch their head and say?
No, I actually gave, Nick Cox is the current owner of Bikert Excavating. And I spoke to Nick to ensure that he had a good and equitable bid and that he was still interested in that but to be honest, the three local contractors weren't that far apart. If you looked at it, Bikert was the low, Austin Dirt Works was second, and Jimmy Richards was third. And they were all within 100,000 of one another. So I don't think that there was that kind of, the people who were out of town had gone up for the 2.8. We've seen Sawgrass bid with us before, but their bids have always been very, very high. And I'm not sure. But to be honest, on other bids, we've seen the same thing. When we bid the Willow Lane pump station, for instance, the low bid was 4 million. The high bid was 7.8 million. It's just how much.
That project seemed to be, that was a very
It is.
wide range.
But I will say, and I'll tell you, even later on that I spoke with Mr. Cox to ensure that they were still wanting to move ahead. I asked him to check his numbers. He did that. He said he was fine. He felt they had just completed a project very similar, and he thought they would be willing to do a good job. They're willing to start June 1st. and they hope to be complete by the end of October. So all of those are very, very positive for us.
One final question, and this is actually more of a clarification, and I apologize for my ignorance, but like Washington Avenue, Charles Street, Rosewick to a certain extent, is that the county to manage the cleanup from the construction going on and off the road? Or is that something that is in your purview to ensure like a street sweeper goes through and?
On any of the, are you specifically referring to like Magnolia Gardens entering onto Washington Avenue? The county
I'm out of time.
inspectors, you inspect that, and so Washington Avenue is a county road. Rosewick is a county road, and they're usually pretty tough to deal with. The county is not exactly known for being contractor friendly. But if I know, I certainly know the county inspectors. I mean, you know, I talk to them all the time and can certainly ask them, or, you know, I certainly know all the Richards family pretty well, and I can certainly give them a call and say, listen, you need to do a better job of cleaning up the road. We wouldn't allow that on our town streets, and, you know, we're very good about that, but I try not to step into the county's purview where it's not. That's correct.
Leave that for the town manager to do. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you very much for a thorough
Thank you.
report. Next up is our treasurer, Ms. Larson. Come on down. Lots of number crunching here. Are there any questions for Ms. Larson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Larson, I just have one question. On the general fund expenditures, it's page 60 of the total agenda packet, where I'm looking at salary and wages for February 2023, February 2024. The salary and wages are higher in 2024, but the fringe is lower. Is our fringe a percentage of the salary and wages or no?
No, it's the exact amount of the benefits the employees elect.
This significantly lower on a higher.
It could be because we had another employee had one type of benefits. They could have changed, had a election where they maybe dropped off a child. It can vary. There could be various things, but I can look and try to pinpoint that if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for our treasurer? All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Next up is Director Phipps. All right, open the floor for any questions for Director Phipps. Any questions? All right, no questions. Thank you so much. And I know that Director Kennedy isn't here. If you have any questions, I am sure that our town manager will be able to eloquently state what you're looking for. Any questions for Human Resources? Councilman Jenkins?
Thank you. Just I guess, a question. I noticed on one of the slides under miscellaneous, they're developing a new draft of the employee handbook. Does it or will it include annual performance evaluations as part of that employee handbook?
Yeah, it is. I believe it's included within our employee handbook now. And then if you go to the last slide, 10 of 10, following modules are planned for FY25. Performance management is one of those new modules that she anticipates engaging with Paylocity on. But yeah, and anything that was done to the personnel handbook would have to come back to council for approval. So you would all be aware of the changes that were going to be made or anticipated.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Manuel? All right, thank you very much. Next on our agenda is the Enterprise Funds Rate Study. Mr. Manuel, it's all yours.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Town Council, I've included a staff report within your agenda packet, just to hit on some of the highlights within that report. The purpose of the study, of course, is to assist the town staff in reviewing the fees charged by its enterprise operations, which would include water, sewer, stormwater, and solid waste collection. The study would have a 10-year horizon as far as our financial forecasting. And this is done for accuracy purposes. We sort of tie this rate study to our strategic initiative of financial forecasting under Goal 1, which is good governance. Additionally, I've listed the scope, the sort of highlighted scope of the study, and the term, or the time, I should say, to perform the study. Baker Tilly anticipates 16 weeks at the max. We're hoping for a little bit less than that. The cost would be $52,780 under the procurement. I've listed that there. Under professional services, we're required to publish notification of the town's intent to enter into it. Into a study which provides specific details. If it's the intent of council tonight, then we will make that publication. And moving forward, I included that Baker Tilly was the firm that in 2021 performed our major facility fee study. And at this agreement, scope appendix is specifically a sort of a part of the master agreement that was originally signed between the town and the county, or town and county. I'm too used to that. The town and Baker Tilly back in 2021. So the request is that that you authorize me to move forward with this study. Of course, with the it would not be immediate with the provision under the procurement that we would have to. So it would not be. I would not be eligible to sign that until after we've done the publication notification, if you will, as part of that process. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I know I included the scope appendix, which is specific to this task, or I should say 5 tasks, as well as the original agreement from back in 2021 as part of the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manuel, I sure hope we get a good return on the investment for $52,780. So would we have the opportunity to, again, reallocate any of the ARPA funding for projects that we might not be able to see come to fruition before the end of 2024? Is there an opportunity, or where is the money coming from?
Yeah, the money will come from, since it is an enterprise fund, we've asked the Baker Tilly to provide us with a sort of a breakdown by fund. How much does the the water part of the study cost? How much is, so we can directly associate those costs to each individual fund. We think that's the fairest way to do it for each fund. Ideally, and this is sort of unique because a lot of places do. They call it utility rate studies, where they look at water and sewer. We're looking at all of our enterprise funds. So the price is a little bit elevated because of that. We're looking at all 4 funds. So, but they will be charged as, which we don't anticipate it being an issue.
But there's not an opportunity to use ARPA funding for this. The funny part about it, when we got the ARPA money, we couldn't think of how we were going to spend all of it.
Right.
And now
we're finding different ways.
This year.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a possibility to utilize, but it would have to be repurposed, which would take an action of council.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manuel, as I read it, as you spoke about it in your memo, it's a 10-year scope of work. Is that right? Is that
They project
projection?
out to 10 years, yes.
But we just did this in 21.
That was major facility fees, so
Got
these
it.
will be looking at rates.
Okay, so it's not quite apples to apples, but they're familiar with our
Yes.
infrastructure and everything else.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Go ahead, Councilman Jenkins.
Thank you, thank you, Brent. Just a clarification. So this is not going to affect or cannot affect the proposed FY25 enterprise budgets, right?
It will not, as the study has not been completed. It will be, once the study is completed, it would be something that you could consider adopting and putting in place. You would have to amend your schedule of fees to do such, or you just wait until the it's hard to believe I'm going to say this, 26 budget cycle to include the recommendations. With the major facility fees, once we got the number back and we knew what the number was, the council at that time decided that they wanted to make the changes, sort of accept the recommendations that were made as part of that study and move to immediately start applying the new fee, if you will, not new fee, but the new number to all new development within town. But it would be a choice the council could make once the study's complete.
And then maybe I missed it. So will this also look at the how we calculate our equivalent dwelling unit rates or generation rates?
Yeah, I believe it's the second point of task 2.
Okay.
Sorry if you'll bear with me.
No, that's okay. I mean, I thought it did. And then just real quick, so does it include an update to the major facility fee or not? I mean, again, maybe I missed that.
It would not. Actually, when the major facility fee study was done, Baker Tilly included sort of the spreadsheet, if you will, so that we could go in year over year. And I think Karina plans, we're not probably going to do it annually, but we may do it every 2 years. So we have the ability to plug in the information and adjust our fee.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I do have, I guess, kind of a statement. I know that this is one of the big elephant in the room is water appropriation. And this study is actually going to help look at all of our water usage, our sewer, all of that. It's going to try to estimate that, I guess, or not estimate, will give us solid numbers on that. And this will be running the same time we are still working to get an agreement with the county. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this will help so that we know what the appropriate EDUs are being used and how we can move forward with that, with calculations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, moving on to our next item is the Tillman
Madam Mayor,
Lake. Oh,
is there a consensus to
sorry.
move this forward to the?
I'm sorry, I was just so I guess we are looking for a consensus to move this for the town staff request. So the council authorized the town manager to enter into the scope appendix to the master agreement of 2021 with Baker Tilly in the amount of $52,780. So I am looking for a consensus, thank you very much, to bring this to legislation. Councilman Winkler.
Yes.
Councilman Trollinger.
Yes.
Councilwoman Bryant Ward.
Yes.
Councilman Jenkins.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Thank you very much. I was just testing you on that and you passed with flying colors. Now, Director Stahl, I know that you have addressed many of our concerns already, so that is good. I know we are looking for a consensus on having the town manager enter into agreement with this, but we're going to entertain any questions that council may have. Beautiful.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mhm.
Director Starr, I just want to say, you were telling us, don't be asking you for no comparative bids. You gave us, like, I'll teach you to ask me for it.
And I honestly can't explain it. I really tell you, it's every time, sometimes we come back and we get 2 bids, sometimes we get 3. This time we just happened to get 10. We were all shocked.
Information overload. You trying to teach us a lesson. That's what I.
Well received. Any other questions for Director Stahl? Councilman Jenkins?
Thank you, Director Story. Again, thanks for the work. I know this is something that was almost forced on us, but having said that, so do you have any estimate of when the permit will be reviewed and approved by MDE?
The permits have been approved by MDE, so we do have all of the permits. The one challenge that they put in the permit was that we couldn't work in the stream area over there until after June 15th.
Oh, okay.
So actually, the timing of our bid and everything was because of that. And so in speaking with the proposed contractor, which is Bikert Excavating, which is located, their headquarters is down just before the Potomac River Bridge. I spoke with them. They would be planning to start, if selected tonight and approved by the council, around June 1st. And that way they could move right in and start doing the base work in the stream not too long after they got mobilized onto the job. And they thought they hadn't put the final schedule together because they haven't been awarded the contract. But in speaking with Mr. Cox, he thought that he could accomplish the task in 4 to 5 months, which would be
Okay.
very positive for us.
Yeah,
And so
that's great.
be positive. That way we would be finished before trying to work in there in the winter.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm looking for a consensus from council to, for the town manager to approve this recommendation to contract with
Bikert?
Biker.
Mhm.
Does not look that way. Excavating for a bid of $492,900. Councilman Winkler,
Yes.
Councilman Trolinger,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bryant Ward,
Yes.
Councilman Jenkins.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. So we'll move this to legislation and we'll see this in just a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This brings us to our next item, 4.3, the budget discussion with general funds. Mr. Manuel.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Town Council, including your agenda packet is a memorandum that was prepared by Ms. Larson, which sort of gives you an overall, starts with our general fund, has some nice pretty pictures. I don't know how pretty they are, but they're colorful. Which sort of gives you a brief description. Of course, the question you probably want answered is what is included within this balanced budget, as it does balance. From our discussions of last week, it includes the IT specialist position. It includes a 2% 457 town match. It includes a 3% COLA and a 76% decrease of the town's health savings account as SHA funding. So that is what is included within this balanced budget from our discussions previously, and entertain any questions you may have regarding the general fund specifically.
All right. Any questions from council?
Madam Mayor, Mr. Manuel, you told us what was included. Can you tell us what's not included?
I may have to defer to our Finance Director, Ms. Larson, to fill in some of the blanks on that.
That was on the original spreadsheet. The only position was the IT position, the permit tech, the police officer were not included. However, we did actually include the reclassifications for the 3 positions that the PD requested. As for the benefits, there were several different COLAs. The 3% COLA fit into the budget, along with the fact that salaries for local governments have gone up 4.68%. So 3% COLA and then having the 2% matching helps balance some of the benefits and salaries. There is no pension plan in this budget for this year. The health insurance premium is still going to be 100%. We thought that the HSA would be a better option, so it's not an upfront cost to the employee, and it actually is something, if they need it, they can fund it, and if they don't need it, then it's not coming out of their pocket right away. There are a few assets, very small ones. The PD requested to have the computer and a Motorola radio in there. And then most of the assets will be revisited during the fall. I did talk with both the PD and the Public Works, and those assets aren't as emergency assets and can wait until discussions later.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Manuel or Ms. Larson? Okay. All right, so I am looking for a motion to approve the budget, the balanced budget, right?
Yeah, I don't think we're looking for a motion. I think this is more
I mean, it will.
just a
Yeah,
consensus
it's the
would be.
consensus that we can move forward because there's a lot of other steps that I need to do, and the actual adoption of the budget will be done at the end of May, the last meeting in May.
So excited too. All right, how about a consensus? I'm looking for a consensus to move this forward. Councilman Winkler,
Yes.
Councilman Trolinger,
No.
Councilwoman Bryant Ward,
No.
Councilman Jenkins,
No.
and Mayor James is a yes. So we have a failed budget to move forward. Mr. Manuel, what is the next step, please?
We need to know what we want to put in the budget so that it will be considered a successful budget. And then we'll figure out how to balance that budget.
Okay, and this is a little, to me, and I will say this is a little confusing to me because we were given the staff direct orders to balance a budget. And I don't know if there was any communication with Mr. Manuel this week to what should be included, which would have been what prudent, I guess, on our part, so that it was included, so it was presented to us. So we've got a time schedule that we have to adhere to in order to get a balanced budget to work for July 1st. So I will open the floor for council to instruct Mr. Manuel why you're a no, and what are you looking for? Councilman Jenkins?
I was befuddled and still confused that we go from trying to go through a line by line budget selection with choices, and then tonight we have to ask what's in the budget to balance it. So that I have some heartburn with that. And also, I think, again, from my perspective as one member, we should include either Plan 2 or 3 as a pension option in the budget.
So do I hear, if I am hearing you correctly, that you would feel comfortable seeing the line by line of the, more so than what was presented before through the Excel spreadsheet?
I would like to see more information on what is in the budget versus what, and I think Councilwoman Bryant Ward asked the appropriate question, what's not in the budget?
Okay, so Mr. Manuel,
So
sounds
I would
like,
just like to know what's included and what's not included, and for me, I would still like to see either Plan 2 or 3 included, or at least as to do a what if analysis, what the impact is on a budget.
okay. Councilwoman Bryant Ward?
I would like to see the retirement plan for the at-risk public works and the police department. We kicked this down the road. We did the study. We did multiple studies. I would like to see that in the budget.
All right, and Councilman Trolinger?
I echo the sentiments of Councilman Jenkins and Councilwoman Bryant Ward while acknowledging the challenge of the assignment. I think it was clear last week we were felt like we were kind of with outside of our scope as individual council versus your scope as treasurer. But at the same time, I don't think we've ever indicated that the pension plan was DOA in relation to the budget. And I know, my understanding from our last meeting was, let's try to figure out a way to make this work within the context of, let's trim the fat and see if we can still do the pension plans. And I know that was my understanding. I don't think that there was any ambiguity there over the whole context of the discussion. That's why I was no on this.
Okay, so I did not add the pension plan because right now our revenues are lower than what our expenses are. And so we don't have the revenues to support that obligation long-term. If the council is willing to look at raising taxes to ensure that we have that benefit covered for the long term, then that would be more reasonable to put into the budget. Right now, under the circumstance, especially with the huge increases in personnel costs, it's not something I would recommend council to do unless they're willing to raise taxes to make sure we can continue that obligation, because it's not an obligation that we can just drop next budget year or the budget year after that if we come into financial difficulties. And the reason I put the 457 matching in is because that is something that would give the town that fiscal control when we do end up in a situation, because right now our revenues just aren't keeping up with our expenses. But that benefit will also help with providing an additional retirement benefit to those at risk. I can change it where it's just for those employees that get that, which would lower the expenses. But I wouldn't recommend doing something unless you're ready to make the decision to have the revenue stream to sustain that cost.
And I know tomorrow evening, we are going to go to county to see if we could get the same type of tax differential we have in the last couple of years. They came back with something that was higher already, so there is a rate increase there that our residents will feel on that. And so that is something that we do need to be quite aware of that. What I would like to see is if that is being entertained for something that you're the expert, you're the treasurer, saying that it's not sustainable right now. I'd like to see what was cut operationally from anybody's budget to sustain that, because just to not cut anything and add more when you are saying right in front of us, we don't have the revenue to cover the expenses. That's what I would like to see.
The real expense that was cut was the funding for the HSA. That was the one thing that was really cut.
And we do, I hear all of my council members saying that, we really do need to take care of our employees. And that is true. So that is a challenge for you, Mr. Manuel, and you, Ms. Larson. My request is to see more things be cut if we're going to add anything. But I think it's going to be very telling tomorrow too, to see where we go with the county, to see what they're going to do.
Oh, I will say one thing. If you want a significant cut, you're going to have to cut personnel. Personnel makes up 70% of our operating budget. So if we're going to cut something, and that's not where I would recommend to cut, but we are in this situation. And really your options are, if you want to continue adding benefits and additional costs to the town, you're going to have to look at our tax rate.
And one other thing that's not on this budget, I didn't hear, is the cost for a town engineer, where it sounds like it's crucial for us to have a town engineer. And that's yet another expense. And I don't even know, you look at, you haven't heard that one. Mr. Manuel's going to catch you up on that, but that may be it will be an added expense. To what degree, I don't know, if it's only a contractor or if it's someone that is permanently on staff that will get benefits.
Yeah,
I don't.
before Karina's heart stops, no, it would not be a staff personnel. It would be a third party that we would contract with to provide various tasks, if you will.
On an as needed.
As needed basis,
Right.
correct.
Right.
So, this organization is not unique to most. Employees and the expense of having them typically make up about 80 to 90% of the budget. So that's not unique. In my mind, to think that we would propose cutting personnel when the reason we've increased the salaries is so that we could retain and not continuously recruit and turn over. we've solved that problem. To say, you know, reduce staffing, that's not logical in my mind.
I wouldn't
And-
recommend it.
Well, but that was the recommendation. And so you're saying if you want to cut something, it would have to be staff. That's not an option. So that's off the table. But I do think either we're gonna do it now, or we're gonna eventually have to think about increasing taxes. We're still trying to balance a budget at the expense of the town. And that makes no sense to me. So I look forward to whatever you bring back. But, you know, this has been, we've had this conversation, you know, the day one that we walked on site. That's what I've heard about. If it were dead in the water, if it was an issue of inequity, if it was an issue of anything, it should have been killed years ago. The conversation about a retirement should not have just been about money. And now we found something, and you said to us, options 2 or 3 were okay options and it would work.
No,
But let me finish. And so with that, we did the study. We have the information. I don't want it to be just a futile exercise to appease council to give us that information and do nothing with it. And this is what this is feeling like. It's like I don't know. You know, the numbers, you're in charge of them. I get it, but I'm not confident that it didn't fit. I feel like we didn't want it to fit.
no, actually, the study was done to see what the options and the costs to the town were. Now, I have been asked what my recommendations were, and I've said a 457, and the main reason of 457 is because the fiscal control the town has. And it also provides the employee with the option to retire early if that's what they choose to do. My concern is we get into one of these plans and now we're obligated to provide these benefits, and we need to make sure we have the revenue to sustain that obligation. And that's my biggest concern.
Ms. Larson, the budget that you gave us does not include the 457 plan, or does?
Yeah, it does.
100%.
Yes.
So it's not bereft of a change, but it is not options 2 or 3.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, understood.
And that 457 is for everyone.
I did budget for everybody, and it's a matching, meaning the employee needs to put 2% in and the town will match the 2%.
And I also heard you say that you could make it so it is just for the at-risk employees.
If that's the wish of the council.
And that, at least as we had discussed before, but that is at least a step forward to,
Providing additional retirement for those employees. I mean, they right now have a pension, and this would be an additional retirement benefit on top of that pension.
okay. All right, any other comments? All right, so if I understand this correctly, Mr. Manuel, we cannot move forward with the enterprise fund and approval because it is based on the general fund approval.
That is somewhat correct
Ye-
and accurate statement because of
Yes.
the impact. Go ahead.
Yes, because the calculations are based on employee benefits, and those costs influence the cost into the enterprise funds.
So I am going to ask your advice, Mr. Manuel, on our next meeting is not until May.
14th.
So that seems like that is kicking this way down the road and will put everything off. So will we need to have an emergency meeting in order to move this forward?
Could I get clarity on something? Does the majority of town council want to raise taxes to cover a pension plan?
That's what we're up against, is we've got to
That's
publish
what's
the
in there.
tax rate because, and then we have to submit it prior to is the 18th.
The 17th.
17th.
And then I have to have it advertised 7 to 21 days before a public hearing. If I can get a consensus on the fact that council as a majority would like to raise taxes to cover this pension plan, then I can add it in.
I think that's a very interesting question that we don't have the data on, right? So you're asking us that question without giving us what that increase would be. We have a meeting tomorrow night, right, about the tax differential with the county. So I appreciate your question, but to answer that, I think we
You want
would have to
specific.
know what the effects would be of 2 or 3, right? Not only that, but Madam Mayor asked a very good question as to whether or not we, amended the 457 that you've provided to include essentially the on the boots folks as a first option, which is a whole different calculation together. Maybe the 76% decrease in the HSA is too much, right? And so it's hard because it's been a moving target. And I know it's been a challenge because you probably feel like you're getting different mandates, but it's not really, and I know what you're asking, but I can't answer that without knowing what the effect
Well,
of that increase would be.
The worksheet that I had provided would have told us what it needed to be if we used that worksheet and plugged in the numbers, because I had the budget and then I had these additions. And if we talked about this last week and and 3 council members said, absolutely, we want to have plan 3. That would have been punched in right there. It would tell me how much we're off, and then we could have determined what the tax rate would have been very easily. And that was the purpose of last week's, was to figure out what you guys wanted in the budget and then what's the effects and where the revenue was coming from.
Was there and maybe my memory is different, but I don't think you I'm not gonna. I think there was enough information about the frustration of not including the pension that it would have been okay. I mean, I would have been fine with it for you saying, hey, look, if you want 2, it's going to cost you this much. If you want 3, it's going to cost you this much.
I was bombarded by you guys. I couldn't even explain how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had given me a chance to show you how it worked, you could have seen where we were starting at and with the additions, what would the effects would be. And that was the whole reason of the worksheet, to get council's feedback on what you wanted in the budget. But I didn't get a chance to do that last.
And we all have that worksheet.
Yes.
And I'm a little confused here. So we have the worksheet,
Yes.
but you could have done the calculations had you been allowed to do it last week.
They were right there. That it was an interactive worksheet.
Okay.
That's why I had it up on the sheet, so that
But
when we went through things,
Mhm.
I could, if you wanted a plan 3, all I had to do was equal to the side. It was already there. And then at the bottom, it would calculate how much we were in a deficit. And then I had the tax rate. I had the fund balance. And then if by adjusting those, it would tell you about how much we needed to balance the budget.
Councilwoman.
So more or less a comment, because I think your intent is spot on. And I think the worksheet, there were too many options maybe for council to plug and play, but I agree with how you set it up, as to see what the overall impact would be. My comment is this, and it's something that I've brought up in a number of times, is that's what a work session is. That's where, if we collectively as a council sat down with Ms. Larson and said, what does this look like? What does that look like? And we kind of rolled up our sleeves and sharpened our pencils, we wouldn't keep having these back and forth discussions that lead to nowhere. So that's going to be my first comment. And then my second is the pension 2 and 3 option were what was chosen as well, let's just see what it looked like. And maybe I'm misremembering, but I think it was either my first or maybe my second meeting when this pension option was brought in. So I don't have any history prior to that. I've done a little bit of research, and I can tell you that and I'm not a legal scholar, there is no incident in the United States currently where public works and public safety are combined in a pension in any municipality in the U.S. So why the town of La Plata feels like we need to set the precedent, I'm not sure. That's not to saying that public works is not deserving of, I just think it's a different pathway moving forward to compensate Public Works than solving the pension problem on the backs of the La Plata Police Department. I think they're two separate incidents or issues, and while combining them may seem as though that's the best option to solve that issue, the fact of the matter is that it is opening yourself up to even further issues down the road, because now every employee in the town is going to come in and say, I'm an at-risk employee, because the staff that sits behind the glass and collects the water bills and gets yelled at by a customer because of a late fee, they're now at risk. They're going to feel threatened. So now we're going to add them to it. So if you're going to do it, then let's just change the entire pension plan for all town employees, make it uniform across the board, because that's essentially what you're voting on.
We currently have one for all employees.
No, I'm saying, but if you're going to change, if you're going to alter it to solve the La Plata Police Department and you're going to add Public Works, well, why not just now change the entire pension for the entire town and then see what that tax rate increase looks like?
And you did say about the tax increase, worst case scenario tomorrow is we don't get what we have asked for, what the town manager is going to ask for. Best case scenario, that we get exactly what we got last year. That's what I'm hoping on, best case scenario. If we go with the best case scenario, and I hear my three colleagues here wanting to put pension 1 or 2 in, do we still have to raise taxes?
I would recommend us raising taxes, because what's going to happen is we're going to end up using fund balance to cover this.
So in
Year-over-year
order to make
ensure that we
this,
meet this obligation.
to make it sustainable.
Yes.
And
And that's my
and-
biggest concern, is that we're going to get into something, or the town's going to get into something that we cannot continue funding and meeting those obligations without increasing the taxes based on our current trends of expenses. Now, for example, personnel, which is our most expensive, it increased over the last 5 years up through 2022, I want to say 5.6%. In 2023, it increased over 20%. In 2024, I'm estimating it to increase 15%. So my concern is that we've had this huge increase and our revenue rate hasn't changed. We've had some increase in the revenue, but our revenue from real property, the trend is just over 4%. So my concern is we're going to add more benefits, more costs, and we're not going to be able to sustain that. And we're going to start reaching into fund balance to cover this if we don't raise taxes to sustain that. And then you guys have a bunch of capital projects that you want to do. One large project, the police station, that right now is estimated more than what we have in our unassigned fund balance. So making sure that we meet all the capital that we need to continue these services and our operating costs is becoming very difficult in our current situation.
Okay.
So I just have one thing to say. We have to stop saying that we're considering increasing taxes to cover a pension. That is not it. We're cutting in other areas of our budget to balance a budget. If we had the revenue from taxes, maybe we wouldn't be considering cutting crucial things from the budget to make the budget work. So we are not raising taxes for a pension plan. That is just not true. And we have got to stop that narrative. And when we talked about, when Mr. Bolton was here, we asked if it were best practice. It had to be best practice done somewhere, and for him to say that it was best practice to consider the police department and the at-risk public works. I came back and I asked the question because we had the town inspector, from the planning department that we felt was at risk. I asked Director Kennedy, can you check with Mr. Bolton to see if this was ever done? She said it was not. So not every town employee will be considered at risk. He told us clearly that these two departments is best practice to have them in a pension where they could retire earlier rather than later. So it is not that we're looking to raise taxes to add a pension plan. That's not true. And we did ask the the consultant that we brought in here to do the study if it was best practice, and he said yes.
I appreciate what you just said. The optics will be that, because right now we have a balanced budget in front of us. We have a budget that is not increasing taxes based on what you presented tonight. It included, a bunch of stuff, but it did not include some of the stuff that were presented to us. If we change that and you bring it back to us whenever we meet again and include other employee benefits, that is going to be the catalyst that causes us to raise taxes. That's what the optics are going to be. I don't know how else to say that. Again, I'll go on the record as saying I'm not opposed to that, but I am in this climate right now where it is tough. Raising taxes for whatever reason on our residents is a really tough time. When your gas is up, your milk is up, the state's going to raise fees, not taxes. The federal, we don't even know what's going to go on with that. And I've said it publicly as well, is that perhaps rolling it in and giving, the first step would be the 457, maybe for just the at-risk employees, to add that up there and start there. But I think if you do for one and it costs the other, you're going to have some upset employees too. That's just my opinion. So, I hear and I love the passion and everyone being able to speak their mind, because that's what we do. We've got to make sure that we stay true to ourselves and to our employees and to the town. So, Mr. Manuel, now
Yes.
that this has
Excuse me.
not moved forward, I don't know if council would entertain an idea of putting just a 457 with a 2% for the employees that are at risk, so that we can get the budget balanced before FY25 sets in July 1st, or if we come back for an emergency meeting to get this forward and tax, whether or not, you're going to have to figure that out, how much taxes would have to be raised in order to.
Yeah, I can just plug that into the worksheet that I provided. It will tell me because it will calculate down at the bottom.
Okay, Mr. Manuel, I'm going to throw another curveball here. If Ms. Larson can do that so quickly, can we move forward with legislation for Tillman and our new business reports, and come back and find out if this is the will of the council when she plugs that in, is to raise taxes for this? Is that advisable?
Or we could just do it right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. She does not have her computer. We could, we won't get an answer for, when will they let us know, Mr. Manuel? They usually don't let us know until mid-May if the county's going to grant us.
Yeah, sometimes it's not instantaneous. And just to sort of give you more specific information, last year the county chose so graciously to keep our differential at 0.142. The calculation last year indicated the differential should have been a 0.132. This year's calculation is actually 0.124, so it's trending down. And I've made the request to Jake Dyer, who's the acting director of fiscal and administrative services, for the county to please graciously keep it at the 0.142 that we are currently have in fiscal year 24.
And when do you think he will let you know?
It'll have to be, yeah, I'm not sure what time, it's part of the county's budget. So Whenever the county's budget is approved, then that will be approved.
I mean, what was the timeline like last year? What is it traditionally?
I'm not sure.
I
when
know
the
you
county-
said sometimes it's not instantaneous, but what's,
Yeah, I mean, they should have a pretty good idea. It's not like this is something the commission's typically hyper focused on. And if the staff recommends something, usually they take the staff's recommendation, and we'll have a feeling tomorrow night. But, you know, it's until the county's budget's adopted, it's not set in stone, so to speak.
but you'll get an idea of what their recommendation to
Yes,
the commissioners.
yes.
Understood, which sounds helpful.
Not that I want to add at another meeting, but next Tuesday is the 5th Tuesday of the month, and we don't have any meetings scheduled. Do we come back and we'll have numbers for all that?
I can give you, I have the numbers. And that was the whole reason for the spreadsheet last week, was to see the effects on the budget.
Understood.
But that is,
Mr. Manuel, your suggestion?
Just sitting here looking at the spreadsheet. Yeah, I recommend that we come back next Tuesday, unfortunately.
I can make that work.
That's the next thing, is that everyone's available. I'm saying that, let me check my calendar.
Yeah, let me check
Uh,
that too. Oh, nope. Or do we have a meeting, we're gonna be in meetings all day tomorrow. We have a meeting at 5 with the county. And do we come here for 6 before our 7?
Yeah, I think the county's meeting's virtual. I think there is an in-person option, but I will be doing it virtually. Just will the council, really.
Are we able to, so we have a meeting tomorrow. Can you come in a little earlier than 7 to discuss this? We already have to call a special meeting anyway.
I can stay later. I can't come earlier. So
You
Can't
can
do
stay later tonight,
tomorrow.
for after the 7 o'clock. Oh, that's Councilwoman. Okay. Councilman Jenkins, what is your schedule tomorrow?
I should be back in La Plata by 4 o'clock, traffic permitting.
Okay.
So I can do it before or after, or I can certainly meet the following, the 7th, or no, the 8th, no, the 7th of May. I'm also available for that too.
The planning commission.
Yeah, that's too late.
What's the 457 option on the worksheet that we got when we got the report back from board?
yes, it was.
Yes.
Yes.
It was. That was, and that was, I mean, there was a lot, I know that it is difficult to put you in the position of saying, and it was coming all on us, which again, we'll discuss process for next year, and it'll be smooth as butter next year, but that was one of the options on there. And I never want to not acknowledge the hard and dangerous work of our boots on the ground people. I live it. I mean, I have a son that puts himself in danger every single day. So I get that. And I get how he says, especially with the police, how heavy the stuff that they have to wear in order to be protecting our citizens. We need to see how that impacts, I mean, the budget.
Schedule. Where are we going with on the schedule? All right.
Yeah, it's up to those councils'
Well,
decision.
I hear 4, but we've got a 7 o'clock, which
Yeah, I mean,
means-
guys, I appreciate it. We previously asked about the time frame. I only had that starting time
After 7.
that's why I gave that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So I can stay later if anybody else can stay later, or I can do it another day. I mean, whatever works.
I think the majority can come tomorrow. I think at least 4 out of the 5 of us will be here tomorrow, and I don't want to
I-
exclude you.
Will be here. I just won't be here before 7, as that
Yeah.
poll already
Right.
asked.
That's true, but then when you're going into a meeting that is going to probably be a lengthy discussion, and we've already have a scheduled 7 o'clock meeting, you're gonna be here for quite, and that meeting will probably be at least an hour, if not longer. And then starting to talk about this, that's a late night. for-
When we
Order.
started council, we had unfortunately 4-hour meetings at times. I mean, look, if you guys wanna,
I say knock it out.
you guys wanna,
stay late, gotta stay late.
Say we can, yeah.
Councilman Jenkins, are you okay having a meeting after the closed session at 7?
That's fine.
Councilwoman Bryant Ward?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we will do then. And so moving on to the budget here, since there's no decision on the general fund, we do not need to discuss the enterprise fund because that is impacted by the general.
It would be.
Okay.
Is the 457 option that was on the Bolton study, is that what you included in this budget?
Yes, there was several options. And
Which of
457,
those options, because we can look at that in advance, which of the options did you put in this budget?
the 457, but I did that for all employees.
I
But there
understand.
was another option on the listing of just the at-risk employees.
So was there an option on the Bolton study for all employees?
No, they looked
So-
at just the ones that you
So
identified
you
as
put
high risk.
Everybody in there, so
Yes.
that even if we were to go back to that study and look at the 457 option for the at-risk employees, we would not have the apples to apples.
No, so
No.
the 457 is,
Right, I know what a 457 is. My question is, if we went back to the study
Mhm.
that we asked for, and the 457 option, you're telling me for the at-risk employees is on that study,
yes,
that wouldn't be the numbers that are in the budget now.
correct.
Okay.
But you could plug those in.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so it sounds like, and we didn't even ask you if you're available tomorrow evening.
I'm available anytime to get this done as soon as possible.
Thank you. So it sounds like we've got several different scenarios that we need to look at, which looks like you could do a plug and play.
Which
Yes.
is already available. That was
Yep.
given last week.
Mr. Manuel, would it be possible for you to resend the spreadsheet out to all 5 of us so it's on the top of our queue so that we can look at it? And
Yeah, and we'll clean it up.
Yeah, I'll
And-
get rid of some of the things that you guys weren't interested in.
Because it's
I'll
been
get
last
rid of
week.
the assets that
Yeah.
we're gonna look at in fall, so it will be a smaller list.
And that way we can look at, at this point, I'm only concerned about the 3 options that we have just discussed tonight, you know, option the 2 enhanced pensions.
Mhm.
And then if it is to do, so what Bolton said, if you do just the employees at risk employees, that would be whatever way you work your magic on that Excel spreadsheet.
It's actually the 457 for just at risk were on that spreadsheet as well, so.
And if it could just be, as Mr. Manuel say, clean it up.
Yep,
Not all the other fluff that is there, and we have narrowed it down, which is good. We're now from 39 down to the final 3, I guess, is to see that and just clearly state the impact that it would be on the budget for adding these in.
am I to understand that I'm keeping the IT position in there and the 3% COLA? Or do you want that in the plug and play list as well and remove it from this?
I will ask members of council, are you okay with the IT person and the 3% COLA being, moving forward and not taking that out? Okay, Councilman Trellinger?
Okay with the IT person. If it's a recommendation of our HR and our treasurer to include the 3% COLA, I'm okay with that.
Okay,
I'm
Councilman
okay with the IT person. I'm not okay with the 3% COLA, especially if we're giving the other merit increases in addition.
There is no merit increases.
I didn't hear that was taken out.
Yeah, it was never in there.
If,
It was as one of those plug and plays. It was
but
never in.
we still saw it, so I didn't hear that was taken out.
Yeah, it was never in. there. And
that-
all those items on that list were not in the original budget. The
Correct.
original budget was based on our current operations. Everything else that was on that list were additional items to see how it affects the budget based on what you guys wanted to see in the budget. So there wasn't a merit, there was no COLA, there was no additional retirement plans, there was no reduction in benefits. The last week's exercise was to take what we were currently doing and see the effects and adding those different options in.
When I would support keeping the
Oh, wait a
IT
minute.
person. Go ahead.
Hang on. Councilwoman Bryant Ward, so,
IT person, not the 3% COLA.
okay, that's the final. And now Councilman Jenkins?
Thank you. Keep the IT and go 2% COLA. And I would request, as part of the cleaned up spreadsheet, that there's a better instructions on how to plug in the tax rate. Because I couldn't figure that out, and that's on me. I did plug and play the different pension numbers, and that was pretty easy to do, but the tax rate, I didn't figure that one out. So I would ask for instructions to figure out how to plug that number in. Thank you.
Did you get that, Mr. Manuel?
Thanks. Yes, I did.
Good, all right. So we will, and I guess Director Phipps, tomorrow we will need to, or we need to publish that there will be a meeting after closed session so that we keep the public informed.
I think it may be in the best interest of the public to have this meeting first if we have to push the closed session later.
Okay,
Just because, if someone is interested in this process, we don't want them sitting out front waiting for us to open the doors and saying, hey, our closed session's over. Now you can come in and join our public meeting. So it may be in our best interest to let this
agree.
bat lead off, and then we can go into closed session following this discussion.
I agree with that. And that way we can get our treasurer home a little bit sooner too, as far as that. All right. That brings us to, we're good with this, with legislation for the Tillman Lake Dam. Mr. Manuel?
Let me get back to the right agenda. All right, here I am. Thank you. Madam Mayor and Town Council. First item, Resolution 24-11 Tillman Lake Dam Upgrade. This item is for introduction and consideration of adoption. A resolution concerning Tillman Dam upgrade for the purpose of authorizing the town manager to enter into a contract purchase agreement for the upgrade of Tillman Lake Dam and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. I will entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 24-11 as presented.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to adopt Resolution 24-11, the Tillman Lake Dam upgrade as presented.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to new business since we are not going to do the enterprise fund rate for the resolution.
Madam Mayor, if I may. Yeah, this is for the resolution for the enterprise fund rate study, which we can
Oh, the
still
study.
take. Yeah, this is.
Just keep on going across that. I was just testing you again. So thank you very much. I will take I will have you read that so you get some glory here.
Yes, I don't know about that, but Resolution 24-12 Enterprise Fund Rate Study for introduction and consideration of adoption. a resolution concerning enterprise fund rate study for the purpose of authorizing the town manager and to enter into a contract agreement with Baker Tilly US LLC to conduct an enterprise funds rate study and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you so much. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 24-12 as presented?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to adopt resolution 2412 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All right, anything else I'm forgetting now? We'll go on with the reports. Starting down with Councilman Winkler.
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you. Councilman Trollinger,
No new report.
Councilwoman Brian Ward,
No new report.
Councilman Jenkins.
Thank you. The Parks and Recreation Commission met virtually on April the 10th, 2024. We discussed the memorandum of understanding with respect to the Wills Park soccer field, and I believe it's under review by the town attorney and the town manager. We're developing, or they're developing, a community garden in Patuxent Court, an MOU for that. That probably won't be implemented until the fall. And then we had a brief discussion about the status of the splash pad opening. And then finally, a review or just information sharing about the 2024 event brochure that was prepared by Colleen. And that's the subject of your questions. That's my report.
All right, thank you very much. And I do have some upcoming events. On Thursday, April 25th, the governor will be signing the tourism bill, which was championed by the town of La Plata and designated as a priority by the MML. This is a enabling legislation which empowers all municipalities and counties in Maryland to establish tourism zones via ordinance. And this is quite a win for Maryland. We've got also up there in Annapolis, the recognition of exceptional fourth graders on Friday. We've got 11 fourth graders that will be recognized by the governor for their outstanding essays in the If I Were Mayor competition. These 11 winners were chosen out of 1,300 submissions, and they receive $150. They receive a big, huge plaque, and they get to go up to Annapolis and meet our governor. Saturday is Celebrate La Plata Day, which will start at noon. We have a craft vendors, and we have local food. We have music by Midnight Sunsets, and of course, the bed races. So, and it's all free activities there. The food you can purchase from our wonderful food vendors there. On April 30th, we've got the opening of the Blue Crabs. And it's pretty cool that we have in our backyard the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball club back there. And their theme is Rockin' New Year's Eve, and they're going to be having, they're going to have a Times Square there. They're going to have a ball drop and special performances and, of course, fireworks. And then I have to give a shout out to Chief and Corporal Madison for a fantastic car event on Saturday. It was their inaugural Autism Car Show, and the buzz in that parking lot about how great this was overwhelming. They're already talking about next year, the participants. One thing that you must know about people and their very prized cars is that even if it's threat of rain, they pack up and they leave. So it ended a little earlier than it was advertised because someone felt a raindrop. So all of a sudden, all the cars were pulling out after the award ceremony. Of course, I always remind you, our farmers market is here on Saturdays and a smaller one on Wednesday. And boy, I tell you what, even though wind can't even stop people from going there. So I encourage you to visit them. And in May, they're going to be having King Kamehameha Day, where they encourage everyone to wear their Hawaiian shirts And last but not least, since we're not meeting until, well, we're going to meet tomorrow, but we're not meeting until after this event, just a friendly reminder that Sunday, May 12th is Mother's Day. Be kind to your mother, get a card, maybe some flowers, and treat her with kindness, especially on that day. And with that, I move to adjourn this meeting at 7:49 p.m. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow.